Just did it 2 weeks ago. All right. We're at it. So, got to have a good week here. Excited to play at home in front of the fans. I know they're going to be loud, so that'll be an advantage for us, and excited about the opportunity. Go ahead.
So you're week to week. Do you like coaching in games of this magnitude? Is it fun?
That's round 13. Yeah, it's fun. Every game's fun.
For guys the offensive guys who didn't play against Baltimore last year, Mike McDonald's scheme, and that includes Kyler and Connor, what do you think maybe they learned a couple of weeks ago going against that defense?
Yeah, they, learned a lot from just the game, not just the scheme and what they like to do and the players, you know what I mean? But we kind of start from scratch, on Monday. And even though we played them 2 weeks ago, like you go through your normal process of game planning and studying and knowing the opponent and all that. So we have probably a little bit better understanding the players of what they try to do schematically versus us, and then who you're going against too. So we better learn from it.
You say you start from scratch, but obviously you don't have to go back and watch as much film because you've already done a bunch of that work, I imagine. Does that give any benefits elsewhere?
You imagine wrong. No, we go back and go through our normal process. So, yes, your point is correct about, seeing some of those games and studying some of the stuff that we study. You're seeing it a second time, but there are no shortcuts to the creative process. There are no shortcuts just because you played them 2 weeks ago to how you prepare and how you do game plans and what you teach and all that. So truly, we do start from scratch.
So you're going back and rewatching the same Seahawks Week 3 game that you watched 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
In your past experience, have you had a situation like this where 2 games against the same?
Yeah.
Is there anything you can learn from that or take from that?
No, but I talked to the team about today, a divisional opponent that you just played 2 weeks ago. Some of those things that came up in the game, we got to play, we got to make the correct decisions and be smart about things that we're doing within the game. Because emotions will be high. It's a divisional opponent. You just played them 2 weeks ago. So there is an opportunity for some carryover, that we got to make sure is in our favor.
How much of what they might do, or I don't know what your experience says here, would be just stick to what they do best versus needing to throw some new wrinkles at you because
everyone kind of treats divisional games the second time you play somebody differently, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what they think is best to win the game, and so are we. So it's just like any other game in the aspect of what are they doing, how are they attacking, what are we doing, what are our change-ups, what are our curveballs, what do we feel really good about. Just, knowing your opponent.
When was the last time you had this situation, or what did you learn from that?
Off the top of my head, I can't think, but I know there's been probably 2 years ago, I think we went back-to-back Washington, or 2 in 3 weeks maybe, right, Zach? I don't know. I know that it's come up, though. I've played divisional opponents close together. Typically everybody does once with one opponent. So what you learn is you got to be disciplined in your process.
The mental and emotional side of things is an emphasis every week, with every game being important. With so many heavy implications on this divisional opponent, given how tight the division race is there an extra emphasis in that to stay even-keeled this week?
Not an extra emphasis. We just stick to our process. You know what I mean? So that's preparing ourselves psychologically, mentally, physically, all the pouring into our 5 buckets, sticking to our process and maximizing our process. So just like any other week.
You talk so much about players progressing week to week throughout the season, but what have you seen from your coordinators from where they were at week 1 until up into an out, and I guess more specifically the ground sound, the overall defense?
Yeah, I think, each week you try to, put your guys in best positions that you can, for them to have success, and there's always going to be good and bad in each game. But you try to keep building on some success and eliminating some of your weaknesses or improving some of your weaknesses, because everybody has them. You know what I mean? Every unit, every team has strengths and weaknesses. So you got to try to do what's best to win the game, and I think all three coordinators have adapted throughout the year, and are doing a good job of putting our guys in positions to make plays, and then it filters down to those guys as well, but then the position coaches coaching the details of it, making sure we're executing at a high level, with myself being everyone in alignment. This is how the game's going to go, and to be ready to go and try to give yourself a chance to win the game.
It's got to be an incredibly fluid process with all the variables that come into play, right?
Yeah, a lot of variables. Yeah, but I always say this, that's a good point, Craig, eliminate variables and increase performance. So as many as there are, you try to eliminate some of them too.
With Nick, I mean, is it encouraging to see the defense? It seems like the defense has really consistently progressed throughout the season. I guess how do you kind of assess that, and is that
I feel like we've done enough in most ball games to give ourselves a chance to win. You know what I mean? So that's what we're working on right now. Do the same thing.
Who's in the number 40 this week?
Keitrell Clark had a good week last week.
Gino is statistically one of the top quarterbacks when it comes to the final 2-minute drill. What goes into quarterback or an offense of a whole being so efficient in those crucial moments that might be different than the rest of the game?
I would use the word he's a gamer. He's brought his team back and won some games. And I think it goes into his skill set. I'm sure he's psychologically trained where the moment's not too big, because it's not. But his skill set is one that in known pass with the game on the line, he's hard to defend. He really is. And he does a good job of making the correct decisions and giving his team a chance to win, which he's done.
You mentioned being psychologically trained, and I know that's one of the buckets. I know you can't get into too much detail, but how is that translated to the players to be psychologically, consistent?
It's a really good question, Howard. We educate them. We spend a lot of time on it. We got the right people in the building, the actual experts to educate the players, educate the coaches, so the coaches can coach the players on some things. But we talk about it. We do. I feel like that's an advantage that we have because of the people that we have in place. I think they do a really good job of it, and our players take to it. They really do. So that's a resource that we need to use, and we have used, and we got to continue to use, and we need to use them better. Just like all our other resources, like just be disciplined to your process, but tweak it and do it a little bit better. So I'm definitely glad we have those guys, and I'm glad that our players understand the value of it.
How much do the veteran leaders help along those lines?
A lot. Those are the guys that, kind of lead the way on a lot of that, you know what I mean? Because we do have a lot of young guys, but they know the advantages of it. And everyone's a little different, you know what I mean? Like how they use that piece and that bucket and that resource, everyone's a little bit different. You could be amazed at some of those conversations, and it's cool to see, because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do for the players, serve the players, right? All you're trying to do is make sure that they can become the best player that they can be. And what's in between your ears is a huge piece of that.
Coach, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, guys.